ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦ ਗ੍ਰੇਵਲ ਸ਼ੋ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਗੁਰਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਗ੍ਰੇਵਲ। ਆਪ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਅੱਜ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਕਾਈਪ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਹਰਕੀਰਤ ਸਿੰਘ, ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ, ਵਾਰਡਸ 9 and 10। ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਖਾਸ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਵੈਲਕਮ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਟੂ ਦ ਗ੍ਰੇਵਲ ਸ਼ੋ।
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be on the Grewalz show. Pyar bari sat sri akal.
Mr. Singh, we will do our whole show in English because the main key is our viewers are mostly English-speaking individuals. Lots of politicians watch our show. So, Mr. Singh, I want to know from you, with the farmers' protest going on in India, and now which has almost went all over the world, are you in any part aligned with the farmers' protest in India?
No, not in particular. I have obviously in wards 9 and 10, substantial South Asian population that's deeply concerned about the farmers' protest, particularly because many residents are landowners who still, their families or them even directly give out their land for agricultural purposes. So it has a direct impact on the residents of Brampton. And so because of that, I'm in touch with many of the residents who are extremely concerned and disturbed by the protests and what has been unraveling during these difficult times.
So, as most of our viewers know, that you are a Canadian-born individual, and you are one of the youngest politicians in Brampton. Having said that, why are you so concerned? Like, is your family back in India?
Yeah, I might not look like the youngest, but I am one of the youngest. But it's obviously the family as well. We come from an agricultural family. I did an interview recently, and I said my grandfather came in '58 to England. Well, I was corrected by my own family members who said actually we've been in England since '54. So we have been out of agriculture for a couple of generations. We do have small land holdings in Punjab, but when we talk about extended family, Buas, Chache, Tae, Masiya, many are directly still involved in agriculture in Punjab. So we're concerned about the laws and the ramifications of those laws for future generations. And we're particularly disturbed by the images coming out during the protest as well. Being strong.
So, Mr. Singh, like globally, when we're looking at the news coming out on our mainstream media in North America, when you're watching them, what goes through your mind?
Yeah, it's obviously very powerful and disturbing because obviously, especially initially, the pictures that were coming out, the first thought that crossed my mind was that in particular, that could be my father, that could be my grandfather, that could be my cousin. So when you see images like that, it does bother you at a deep level. And even though we might feel powerless being over here and overseas, as elected officials in particular, there are steps we could take to draw awareness. So immediately we started looking at our opportunities to raise the voice of the farmers, not even just in Punjab, but raise the voice of our constituents, because this issue affects them so dearly and very directly as well.
Now, when we're talking about doing things here, I know you have a very strong hold within your own colleagues at the city itself. Are your colleagues in line with you about this farmers' protest?
Yes, this council has been very vocal when it comes to human rights issues, especially if they affect the residents of Brampton. And so you've seen when we look at Tamil issues in particular, Islamic issues, this council has stood by, even if those issues have happened in Brampton or somewhere else across the globe. They feel that they are a voice for their own constituents and residents. So when I brought up this issue, they were more than happy to raise the voice and concerns of farmers because A, many residents are directly affected, and B, it is a human rights issue as well. When we saw the water cannons and the lathi charges happening, they were all even calling me and checking if I'm okay. So they're very plugged into global issues. They're very plugged into diversity, equity, and human rights issues. And they do take a stand, whether it's something that a municipality has direct control over or not.
Now, when we are living in Canada, as we all know, our Right Honourable Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, since the beginning of the farmers' protest, stood by the farmers itself and talked about the human rights issue. Your mayor, His Worship Patrick Brown, did he ever come out openly and say something about the farmers' protest going on in India?
Yes, I was reading an article where it said he's been silent, but that's actually not true. We passed a motion. We were one of the first cities to pass a motion in support of the farmers' protest and asking for a peaceful outcome. He tweeted then. It got hundreds and hundreds of retweets and likes. Then recently, about a week and a half ago, he tweeted again. That has something like 17,000 likes and 6,000 retweets. So he's been vocal. He just dropped a video for Peter Robertson Gurukar, who's doing an ardas for those who have died during the protest on the weekend as well. He's been there. He's stood in solidarity. Council's been there, and Council's also stood in solidarity. That motion passed unanimously. That motion had a recorded vote. Everybody supported the motion. They're asking for a peaceful resolution and outcome to this protest.
As you being a councillor at the city of Brampton, and you just said that people are saying that he's been silent. It's not just people. Everybody is saying that Mayor Patrick Brown has been very silent on this. And it's also been said that the recent tweet, which has gone viral with those 70,000 likes, was from one of his fake accounts, which was hacked.
No, that's not true. I was part of the process of creating that tweet. I could tell you it came from him. I can also tell you, also Kal Saeed, he himself, along with MP Tim Uppal and Minister Sarkaria, were the ones who nominated Kal Saeed for a Nobel Peace Prize during a time where media in India in particular is calling Ravi Singh a terrorist. So I think he's taken a commendable stance. I think he's been very vocal, and that has not come from a fake account. That's his real account. As somebody who knows the background of how that tweet emerged, I can tell you he stood in solidarity, and it was his own creation.
Mr. Singh, we'll be going to a short break. When we come back, we will focus on your efforts, which you have personally undertaken in regards to the farmers' protest in Canada. Keep on watching the Grewalz Show. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the Grewalz Show. I'm your host, Gurinder Singh Grewal. Today, we have Harkirat Singh, City Councillor from City of Brampton, with us. Mr. Singh, welcome back after the break.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
As we were discussing, Mr. Singh, that this farmers' protest, which has started in India, especially in and around New Delhi, which has gone viral all across the world, the whole world is talking about it. And over the time length, we have seen that you as an individual has taken it very personally, and you've acted upon it in a way that things will stay here with us for the rest of our lives. Can you tell our viewers as to what you did in regards to the farmers' protest?
I was let's start off in the first place. I was very vocal on social media. I felt, even though, some people, called me like, hey, this is happening in India. Why are you, raising so much concern? But I didn't step into human rights issues just during the Kisan protest. I've known about Dalit issues for many, many years. I've done research on them as well. I've known about the farmers' issues. I've known about Sikh issues as well. So when I saw Nodeep Kaur, for example, being arrested and allegedly sexually assaulted, I saw Mandeep Punia being arrested as a journalist. I believe in freedom of the press. I believe in it in Brampton. I believe in it around the world. I couldn't stay silent, so I was going very vocal on my social media. And we also try to bring awareness and connect the youth in a positive outlet, because what happens is, with the COVID-19 restrictions, and on top of that, you have these very disturbing images coming, youth become very confused, and don't know how to channel their energy and frustration. And so initially we started off with just raising food for local charities. So Seva Food Bank, Mississauga Food Bank, Knights Table, they did record donations. And then there was protests happening, even though we had COVID-19 restrictions. But now with the stay-at-home order, we had to find a different way to organize the community, because COVID-19 is still a major threat to our local community. So from there, I decided personally to start organizing a blood drive. I didn't expect other cities to want to participate, but we now have Hamilton on board and Edmonton on board. And so trying to use positive means to raise a voice during these COVID-19 lockdown measures is very challenging. But I've been trying to get the youth, pushing them in the right direction. And it's worked so far.
Mr. Singh, I have a question. In India, police are hitting people. They're tear gassing, shooting at people, and there's blood coming out of individuals who are in a peaceful protest. And here you're doing a blood drive. Like, how did that all come into play?
Yeah, I was like, you know what? If they're gonna take our blood, let's just give our blood to, to save lives. Because that's what they're doing there, and that's what I said we should then do in their way that they're giving back. So, I was telling the youth that, listen, they're some of them aren't even directly involved, but because it affects their families, they're sacrificing themselves. They're on the front lines. They're giving their blood, and so it just. To follow their footsteps, even in a minor way, we should at least at the very minimum give blood back to local Canadians who need it. And so that was kind of the thought process behind the blood drive. And so, many of the youth really liked it. And they send me pictures as they're donating blood, and they take a picture saying farmers protest. And so that was sort of the messaging behind the blood drive, along with, with the COVID-19, this is one way we can raise our voices.
Now, during COVID, so how does the blood drive work? Because as I understand, even when we have to go to our doctors usually don't take us in. They want to do a video call and prescribe us medicine. So how does the blood drive work during COVID?
It's a good question, because I was wondering myself. So during COVID, you have to go to their Mississauga site or their Hamilton site. So they have actual locations. The one closest to us in Peel is near Mavis and 401, south of Mavis. So you register online at blood.ca. You go in, they give you a time. You can't do desi tarika and show up an hour late. You have to come on at your time. And they're following all the protocols. They do wipe downs every day. Many people are actually going still to donate blood, because a few months ago we were at a real shortage, so the community really stepped up. Then when you're donating, you gotta give a code. For us, it's SICK 012467. It's also available on my social media. And then every time somebody donates under that code, it gets given to the Kisan Tribute Blood Drive. And so that code actually belongs to Sikh Nation, who is the leader across the country for blood drives and donating blood. But they mostly do it in November for the 84 genocide. but where they allowed me, and I thank them, to use that code for the Farmers Tribute. And so it gets counted, and we're at just at Mississauga. We're just under 50 people who've donated so far. We're trying to hit well over 100, and we're going to get counts from Edmonton and Hamilton. I know it takes some time, but people who have done it have really enjoyed and going with their parents as well. Just one thing is, on blood.ca, you could take a quiz to see if you're eligible to donate blood, and make sure you do that quiz before you go, because sometimes people get rejected at the doors when they could have found that out just simply by doing the quiz online.
So how many cities is this blood drive at present going on?
Yeah, so I started in Mississauga, and then I know people in Hamilton and Stony Creek. I grew up in Cambridge, so they reached out to me, and they really liked the idea. Then I'm like, okay, let's do it together. And then somebody reached out to me from Edmonton as well, a young student, still a university student, and I sent them the contact over there, and they organized it over there. So right now, we're in Edmonton, Hamilton, and Mississauga, and just good to see the youth engaged and giving back. Giving blood back helps people in need. You're really, literally saving lives by giving blood. So not only is it strong messaging, but it's also a noble cause, and I encourage everybody to participate.
But Harkirat, I think anybody can donate blood. It's not just for the youth itself, I suppose.
No, anybody can. So the youth have mostly organized it because it takes a little bit of technology and coordination with the blood clinics. But you're right, seniors can as well. The day I went, somebody I know very well from Caledon, well over 60, was there, and he has done hundreds and hundreds of donations. He has some sort of record because you're allowed to donate every 3 months, I believe. So he's been going every 3 months for like 40 years. So, some people really take this seriously, as you should, because it's as they say, it's in you to give, it's in you to save lives, and what's more noble than that?
Yeah, and now coming to an end on this issue, are you going to keep this as an ongoing blood drive, or is it just going to end in the next couple of weeks or couple of months?
We did it for the initial 57 farmers that passed away in the Andolan. So we're gonna re-strategize. Now I think we're over 200, and we can extend it for 200 days, or we could just do it again this time next year as well, and do it in 2-month pockets. So we'll go back, we'll talk to the team, and whatever makes the most sense, we'll move forward accordingly.
So now coming back to the COVID situation in Brampton, what can you tell our viewers about the COVID situation?
Well, our numbers are stabilizing. So that was the first major concern. I was in a regional meeting yesterday because one of our regional representatives couldn't attend. So I heard the whole presentation from Dr. Lawrence Lowe. He's very nervous to still open up, but that was very clear from his remarks, because even though our numbers have stabilized, he's very concerned about the variants. The variants from the European Union, the variants coming out of other countries. So he would like the lockdown, I think, to still continue. And it's a tough balancing act, because you don't want small businesses affected. I'm very concerned about that. But at the end of the day, when you measure that up against saving lives, it's a tough balancing act. So his recommendation as of now is leaning towards continuing the lockdown. So the way I see it, it'll go into next month, the lockdown, unless the province has some other sort of data that shows we can open up the lockdown earlier. And I know many people who did lose their lives during COVID-19. And so it is a real concern. And I know, some youngsters who are still feeling the effects of COVID-19. It's a funny type of disease. Some people get it, don't feel anything, and some people get it and don't make it. And some people get it and have lifelong health issues as a result. And I'm not even talking about old people. I'm talking about young people, 22, 23. So I've seen how devastating and ravaging this virus can be. So I get it. He's concerned about the variant. We want to keep people safe. So we'll continue to take his advice. And if the lockdown needs to stay, unfortunately, it needs to stay.
And does anybody know as to until what time we'll be in the red zone? Or is it the provincial government only decides as if Brampton or Peel is gonna still stay in the red zone?
Yeah, Peel gives us recommendations, but normally it's the province that really leads on, especially lockdown measures, because they don't look at only data from Peel, they look at data across the province, and they have their own medical staff at the Ministry of Health as well. But they are also concerned about the variant. The research coming from the variant is that it is very devastating. And a lot of it will depend on the vaccine rollouts, and that's more, as you've been hearing in the news, it's a federal issue as well, procuring those vaccines, and distribution will probably be down to the provinces. But if you don't have enough vaccines procured and haven't bought enough, then distribution doesn't matter. So right now it seems like the federal government is trying its best to procure and get all the vaccines, and then there'll be rollout plans from the province. I think the province will rely heavily on the regions, because the regions have their own medical staff, like Dr. Lawrence Lowe, and the regions have been really at the forefront in fighting against COVID-19. And I'm very confident in the region's ability to get people vaccinated. Even the first rollout of vaccination for frontline workers went smooth, went well. But it's about getting the vaccines into their hands.
So it seems like from what I'm listening from you is that even this year in the summer, there will be no big backyard parties, no barbecues, no weddings.
And I feel bad for people who moved their wedding from last year to this year. A lot of people did that. You would know many. I know many. I could see small gatherings being allowed, like not this 5-10 gatherings only, but big gatherings I don't see this year, or maybe at the end of the year, large gatherings.
Well, we're at the end of our show already, Mr. Singh. Anything else you want to add?
Hey, Grewalz, it's always a pleasure to be on. We get deep into issues and deep into analysis, which I always appreciate. So thank you, and keep up the great work.
Well, thank you for being on our show, Mr. Singh. Keep on watching the Grewalz show. Watch us on YouTube, Google it, watch us on Punjab Star, like it, subscribe it, enjoy it. Any suggestions you have, let us know as to who you want as a guest on our next show. Keep on watching the Grewalz show. Until next time, Sat Sri Akal.